I guess it must not have the lactose is okay to try specific for this cleanse, but that there are all these self-care practices on top of it that she has as part of the protocol, which is taking bath. Welcome to The Well Drop, your home for owning your wellness. Each episode, we share drops of wellness wisdom and actionable tips to help elevate your everyday. Today on this mini drop, we're diving into cleansing. Have you ever done a cleanse? Have you thought about a cleanse? Do you have a need to actually do a cleanse? We're going to go into things that we have done in our past and things that we are actually struggling with, and hopefully that can inspire you to number one, just be curious about your body. And number two, to experiment. I always say my body is my best experiment. And I love trying new things, not doing too much, also staying within moderation, but just being curious and tuning into your body and what your body's needs are, because it may take you in a direction that you never could have imagined. Dina, I feel like you actually were like the first person to kind of inspire me to do cleanses. You were better about cleansing before I even started doing cleanses. What are some cleanses that you have done in the past that you've really liked?
Well, that's funny. I feel like you're the one that's inspired me. So egg, and we don't know what started first.
I guess it's true. We inspire each other, and that's important, right?
Yes. I mean, as you know, we've tried the goat milk cleanse. I don't know if because you were the one that introduced me to that. If you want to explain what that means exactly, it's one of the crazier ones.
Yes,
I think.
It is unusual. I read an amazing book, which we will cover in a future episode. But it is about our body is filled with parasites, whether you know it and whether you don't. And I first came across this book by, I believe it's Dr. Lancaster. And it was after I went to Argentina and I actually caught a parasite, but the parasite didn't show up on the test. But it's one of those things you just know in your body something is off. It was clearly off. And I don't know, somebody must have recommended the book, or I just found it in my research and I read it and everything made sense. And in her book, she is a parasite expert, used to be in New York. I believe she's in Arizona now. And she talks about how the milk, if you drink goat's milk, it's not even regular milk. It's specifically goat's milk. When you drink it, it helps to bring parasites like to hide in different places in your body. So the parasites will come out because the milk attracts them. And then they have herbs that you take. It's an 8-day cleanse on different days and in the morning and at night. And the herbs help to kill the parasites and flush it out of your body. I actually really love the cleanse, and we did some group cleanses together. And some people had an easier time than others. But the best part of that cleanse was, aside from, of course, drinking the milk somehow, I've never even had goat's milk before in my life. Until then,
I am not a milk drinker, just to be
not
clear,
a milk drinker. I'm dairy free. So she even talks about that even if you are dairy free, the goat's milk, I guess it must not have the lactose is okay to try specific for this cleanse. But that there are all these self-care practices on top of it that she has as part of the protocol, which is taking baths every night. And that was a big thing for me. I'm not a big bath person.
Oh, I am a huge bath person.
So that was stepping outside my comfort zone. Like, okay, I got it. I could take the herbs. I could drink the milk. But taking a bath every night as a busy mom is a challenge. So it was actually a good practice for me to say, okay, this is my time. I picked a book. Like, I'm going to read this book every day when I'm in the bath. I think you stay in it for about 30 minutes and different nights you put different things in it to help also draw the parasites out of your body. So it felt like a nourishing cleanse, actually, not necessarily deprivation.
The difference is you live in a warm climate. I live in a predominantly cold climate, and I love a good bath. A good bath in the wintertime when it's cold outside is the best. So yes, I agree. It was a very nourishing cleanse. I don't know that it was my favorite, but I
don't think you loved it.
Yeah.
I was a bigger fan for sure.
Yeah, but I do know that our bodies have a lot of parasites in them, and I do know that. I mean, I do believe in the effectiveness of the cleanse, I guess is what I would say, and it's important to do that kind of work every once in a while for sure. And yeah, I mean, another one I've tried is Prolon, which I actually prefer the goat milk to Prolon. I'm not a huge fan of Prolon because of the powdered soups, anything that kind of comes in powdered form to me, I don't know, I kind of question a little bit.
It's not as natural feeling.
Yes, exactly. But I have also done owl Venice, which I've really enjoyed, which is a lot of bone broth. Yeah, which is real bone broth. And that
I think we did that as a group cleanse. I don't know if that was a hard one, actually. I had a hard time with that one.
There's not a lot of food. Although you can put stuff in the bone. You can make a soup from the bone broth.
Yeah, I don't know why it was so hard. I think because also maybe there's different types of bone broth. Their bone broth doesn't maybe have a lot of it's not a thick bone broth. Like it's more liquefied in the jars. So sometimes other ones that have maybe it's a more collagen or more like meat to it, they solidify. Yeah. And then they liquefy when you warm them up. So I don't know if theirs just felt, maybe it was almost too light for me. I don't think I lasted the whole 5 days. I definitely did not.
It's also hard, right? I mean, a lot of this for me, I find to be logistically hard. So
that is the biggest challenge.
We're moms and we are running around, and something like an owl Venice where I had to heat up, I forget how many times a day, or make a smoothie or whatever, or do something for myself in a kitchen 3 to 5 times a day is not feasible for me, to be honest. That's why actually the goat milk is much more feasible, because you're just drinking goat milk all the time.
They literally took it. I met new moms when I moved down here, and the first time we were really hanging out, we loved to go wake surfing. And it was when we were on the group milk cleanse, and I literally brought my water bottle with me. I was like, girls, you don't really know me well, but you'll understand this is very normal for me. No judgment, but I brought my milk.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
They definitely probably had their opinions, but they still loved me, and they laugh about it to this day. Like that was their first impression of me with my milk in my jar on a boat.
I mean, I would say I did cleanses the most frequently during COVID because we were home so much more, and had the ability to be in my kitchen more and wasn't running around as much. And I find it very logistically hard to do those kinds of cleanses where you have to even just heating up a bone broth. I don't always have access to heating up a bone, I don't always have that ability, or making a smoothie or whatever it is, which is why I also really like, Mindy Pelz has her fasting program. It's not necessarily a cleanse, but to me, any kind of fasting program is a type of cleanse. And she talks about the importance of water cleanses as well, and water fasting, which is a type of cleanse, which is hard to do physically, for sure.
Yeah, I want to try it. I haven't done, so Dr. Mindy Pelz is a big fan, and we're going to talk about her also in future episodes. She is incredible advocate for women and women's health, and that is her sole focus. And she really wants women to lead their best lives. And she has found that managing, especially when your hormones start to shift in your late 30s, early 40s, how you have to tune into your cycle, and that fasting with your cycle, working out with your cycle, eating with your cycle is really the key to overall wellness. And a big reset and a reboot is a 3-day water fast. And it kind of makes sense when you just take a step back, and our society just happens, we overload our bodies in every which way. And there's so much information out there saying, eat so much protein. Right now, of course, for us being in midlife, like protein. But sometimes maybe that's just too much. And taking that break for your body and listening to your body, and especially being in tune with your cycle, you start to really connect back to yourself. And I think that's the key for all of it, is just really giving yourself a moment to reconnect to yourself, because we can really be so outside of ourselves easily every day, and just the busyness of life, that, whatever it is, if you can take a moment to think about what is it that my body needs right now, or what am I dealing with? What am I struggling with? And then finding maybe the cleanse that would kind of cater to that. And you brought me back, Dina, because you introduced me, I believe, to Prolon during COVID. And that is sort of when I really started exploring, cleanses and detoxes a little bit more, because we had the time and space and we weren't as busy.
And I will say, just to be clear about it, anytime I get to a cleanse, it's usually because I haven't been paying attention. Like I get to a point where my body is screaming at me.
Yes.
Maybe I'm constipated. Maybe my skin's breaking out. Maybe I'm having trouble sleeping. I remember in COVID when we were first home every night. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll have a drink every night. It's just me sitting around, and I'm not a big drinker generally, but I remember, we were like, all right, we got to kill this. We didn't think it was going to last for as long as it did. And we were like, okay, so for the 2 weeks that we're in quarantine, well, I'll have a vodka every night. And the reason I started Prolon then was because my body started screaming at me. And it started screaming like, okay, this COVID thing, you get your head, okay, it's going to last longer than I thought. And this is not sustainable. We're no longer on vacation. And my body is telling me that I'm not caring for it in the right way. So it's not that I spend my life perpetually on a cleanse. In fact, quite the opposite. I think particularly in the summertime when we're going out more, eating out more, enjoying everything, socializing, all of that, it gets to a point where my body is like, okay, I need a break. And I find that any kind of break I give my body, it almost doesn't even matter which cleanse I choose. Like you said, it's great to be curious and try different ones, but any break is helpful when that happens, in my experience.
And so what I have learned is the best times, or is an importance, because I always believe, how do you optimize? Like if you're going to do a cleanse or going to do a detox, how do you optimize and get the most out of that? And so doing one during the change of seasons is a great place to start, especially, winter, spring, summer. And I think if you tune in, you naturally start to feel that craving for it. I always felt the craving between summer and fall. For me, that was always a point. Summer, fall, for me, I always feel the craving. And then from winter, spring. And then also timing it with your cycle. You don't want to do it when you are about to have your cycle, because the week leading up to it, your body's actually holding on to stuff, so it won't release as much. The best time to do it is basically within right when your cycle starts or 5 days after. And then also, this might sound a little crazy, but it is real, timing it with the moon cycle as well. So hopefully your cycle is more in line with the moon cycle. So you are better off, you'll have a better detox on a new moon versus a full moon. Because on a full moon, I just learned our bodies are water. And if you know, the full moon does affect oceans. So naturally, it does affect our bodies and our brains tend to hold more water during a full moon. And I believe the tide is also higher on a full moon, if that's correct. All you boating people out there, you can correct me if I'm wrong. So they're just two, little tips of wisdom there for timing. Do it with the seasons, change of season, and also timing it with your cycle. Better to do it right when your cycle begins or 5 days later. Just to close out, I just recently, last weekend, did a liver cleanse. I had been in India, and our Ayurvedic doctor had told me I had a sluggish liver, which didn't fully surprise me. I didn't even know what that meant, but I've done acupuncture forever, and I knew my liver was a little bit weaker, or they could just tell energetically something was a little bit off. I never heard the term sluggish liver, and he looked at me, and I happen to be a person, I don't know if you have this, I have a lot of white. I thought there were sunspots on my body. And especially since moving to Miami, they've gotten worse, and I'm crazy about sun protection. I was like, oh, it's because of the sun. I'm living in Miami. And the doctor, when he saw me, he almost fell to the floor oh my God, you have liver spores all over your body. And he used that term. So what is a liver spore? He's like, look, you could see it. And so they can show up as white spots, and they can also show up as brown spots. And it's funny because actually on my forehead, literally right here and right here, I have two, the very light brown spots. I thought it was from laser and that I went to the sun too soon and my laser didn't work. But actually, after reading this book, it might be a liver spore. So I was curious. I had done a liver detox in India, and he told me my liver was clear. But I'm always kind of skeptical. I'm like, is it really clear? I read this liver book, and I said, all right, I'm going to try this liver cleanse just to do a double check to see how I'm doing. And basically, you drink, it's apple juice, but because of the malic acid in it, they say that your liver holds stones just like gallbladders hold stones. And I never knew that. I don't know if you've heard of that before. But also if it's an ultrasound or an MRI, you won't be able to see liver stones the way you can see gallstones. So it's sort of this invisible thing. There's actually a huge connection, according to this doctor, that your liver holds so much stress, toxins. It does such a big job that if your liver isn't cleansed, it builds up over time and then actually can lead to cardiovascular issues for women. And I believe heart disease might be the number one killer for women. So it is kind of an interesting, I love connecting the dots, an eye-opening thing of oh, okay, our liver really needs to be paid attention to here. And funny, I had a lot of interest about this liver cleanse. What I liked about it is you could do it at home, like we talked about these other cleanses. And you'd have to basically prepare your body 6 days before you drink apple juice, 6 days before 32 ounces. But you also can eat food at the same time. So I kind of like that I didn't feel that I was like super depriving myself. If anything, some people can't handle even drinking the apple juice. That was pretty easy because it was very sugary and delicious. But you do need a colonic before on day 6. And then the cleanse itself is only one night. And it's kind of wild. You basically, that night, you have to drink Epsom salt, which I thought was wild. You drink 6 ounces of Epsom salt, and then 2 hours later, you drink it again. And what the salt does, it helps to open up. There's all these bile ducts from your liver so that the stones can move out of your liver into your body. And so all you do is it's kind of gross, but it's not terrible. You're drinking the Epsom salt water. And then before you go to bed at 10 p.m. that night, and I hadn't like gone to the bathroom, nothing crazy had happened. You drank, basically it was grapefruit juice mixed in with olive oil. And you drink 6 ounces of that, and then you lay down immediately for 20 minutes, and it says to meditate and breathe. And then I basically just went to bed, and like the next day you kind of go to the bathroom, but nothing even so crazy.
You didn't wait. You don't have to pee in the middle of the night. To me, that feels like I'd have to wake up and pee.
Yeah, they say if you do, that's fine, that you can. But the craziest part, so in the book, there was like pictures of these stones that they have had of coming out of people. So that's what I was waiting for. Like, yes, I'm going to like get all these stones out of me. I really didn't have any. I think I saw like one small one. And then you get a colonic within 2 or 3 days after, because the stones, it doesn't just pause the next day and stop. Like your body continuously detoxes. And I actually felt fine leading up to it, but definitely after the second and third day, I was feeling some detoxifying effects. And you get a colonic to make sure that there's no stones remaining in your body. And then I learned from a friend of mine who, I don't know if you've heard of We Care, but this is a type of detox they do at We Care. We Care is a very well-known detox colonic place in, I think, Palm Springs or Palm Desert. So this isn't some hocus pocus cleanse. Like this is a real cleanse that people in the know, they know about it. And so I, of course, asked the colonic person, they saw some stones, but not that much. So that it almost like kind of made me feel better. Okay, I guess my liver is clean, as the doctor had told me. But it's nice to just know that you have this option. They say you should do this like once a year, which is to the point that it's not a cleanse to do often. Unless you have a lot of stones, you need to do a cadence of them. But if you are a relatively healthy person, once a year is a good flush for your system.
And I think in our next mini drop, we're going to talk about some of the books that we're reading, which I'm excited to talk about because this came from, you read about this, right?
Yep.
And a lot of the information like this that we learn about is from fascinating books that are available. And, I'm so excited to share what I'm reading these days and what I'm learning from those books. And, it would be great if you could post the books that we're reading on, if we can post them on there.
We'll put in the show notes. We'll link some books that we talked about on this episode, but definitely, like, I love what you just said, Dina. It will encourage you, like, start reading again, like educate yourself. Like, I understand maybe you're curious about this liver cleanse, this and that, but I do notice a hesitation. I've sent the book to so many people and it's like, they don't want the book. They don't want to read the book. But everyone is so different. So what may resonate with me from the book and what may resonate with you from the book could be two totally different things that, like, don't sell yourself short. Like, just take the time and read the book. You can read it in a weekend. None of these are so big, or some of them are. But whatever, just make it happen before you do a cleanse, because I think that'll help you to get the most out of it and just mind-body connection. Definitely worth a try. All right, so we are going to close out. Thank you so much for tuning in to the mini drop. This was a little bit longer than our normal ones, but hopefully you stuck with us. And if you have any questions about cleanses, please message us, email us, DM us on Instagram, and we are here to help you.